Good evening. Tonight, we begin our slow and gentle walk through time. A journey not led by warriors or kings, but by small, quiet creatures who shared the golden halls of royalty. They were not rulers, not advisors or generals. They were pets, but in their own way, they held a kind of power. A calming presence in turbulent courts, a loyal companion in lonely palaces, and a warm breath of comfort amid marble silence. Let's begin, far back, where the sun rose golden over slow-moving waters. In the land of Egypt, where gods walked with men, and cats sat beside thrones. Close your eyes, if you like. Let the rustling of linen robes and the soft lapping of the Nile waters ease your thoughts. Let the quiet scent of desert blossoms and myrrh drift toward you. We are entering a place of stillness and reverence. In ancient Egypt, animals were not only beloved, they were sacred, especially one creature, revered and protected, its very shape etched into tombs and temple walls. The cat. They called them Mao, not just a pet, but a spiritual protector, a guardian against evil spirits and serpents. Many families, even the pharaoh himself, would welcome a cat into their home with the same respect they gave to honored guests. Imagine the private chambers of Queen Taya, sunlight drifting through woven reeds, a soft couch laid with linen, and at her feet, a gray-spotted cat curled in sleep. The cat's ears twitch once. A golden earring jingles softly as it stirs, then sleeps again. Pharaohs did not just allow these cats. They celebrated them. Some royal cats were adorned with beaded collars and jeweled trinkets. Artists carved their likeness in stone. And when they passed, they were mummified and buried in small sarcophagi of their own, ensuring they would accompany their masters into eternity. Even Ramses the Great is said to have had a cat named Tamu, whose remains were entombed in a sacred necropolis, wrapped in fine cloth and laid to rest with offerings of food and perfumed oil. Cats were the quiet heart of royal homes, where courtiers whispered secrets and priests recited hymns. Cats wandered freely, pausing only to stare, knowingly, into the stillness of time. Now imagine, in the cool of the evening, a queen stepping onto her balcony above the river. A cat trails behind her, tail lifted high, eyes golden in the twilight. Below, boats drift slowly on the Nile. The breeze carries the scent of lotus flowers and date palms. And inside the palace, the soft sound of harps is played for no one in particular. Just another quiet night in the company of gods and animals. Egypt was not alone in its reverence for pets. Beyond its deserts lay other kingdoms, and other gentle stories. But before we leave the Nile, let us pause to notice the silence. How it settles like sand in the folds of time. And how, among gold and stone, it was the purring of a cat that brought peace to a ruler's heart. Herb ambient sound suggestion. Soft wind brushing through tall reeds, distant harp music, gentle river water lapping against stone. As we drift further through the hush of history, we find ourselves gently carried eastward, where empires rose from quiet wisdom, and serenity echoed through mountain valleys and painted pavilions. Now we arrive in ancient China, a place of balance, of stillness, of harmony in motion. Here, behind lacquered doors and silk-covered walls, royal pets lived not only in luxury, but as symbols of spiritual peace. Let the sound of a soft bamboo flute guide you. Imagine the rustle of silk robes along polished floors, the flutter of red lanterns swaying in the evening breeze, and the soft patter of tiny paws that once walked the corridors of emperors. Among the most beloved of companions in Chinese courts was a small, noble creature, a dog so unique, it was said to resemble a miniature lion. The Pekingese. These little dogs, with flat faces and flowing manes, were not bred for the hunt or the field, but for grace. Their job was not to guard, but to glide, to stroll regally through the royal gardens, or sit quietly on embroidered cushions beside their mistresses, observing the world with calm, unreadable eyes. They were not simply pets. They were lion dogs, believed to bring balance, and ward off misfortune. To own one was not just to possess a creature. It was to possess a sacred symbol. During the Tang dynasty, they were treated with such reverence that they had their own servants. They were carried in the sleeves of silk robes, fed from porcelain dishes, bathed in water perfumed with jasmine and sandalwood. Some were even taught to sit in precise poses, mimicking the guardian lions carved outside temples and gates. Silent watchers, protectors of peace. One empress, Wu Zetian, was said to have as many as 10 Pekingese, who followed her like shadows, appearing at her side during court rituals and tea ceremonies. Their presence, though small, was mighty. They were reminders of control, grace, and quiet power. Can you hear them now? The soft clicking of their nails on polished wood floors. The occasional jingle of a silver bell on a red silk collar. Imagine a quiet room in the Forbidden City. Moonlight spills gently through paper windows. A young princess leans over a scroll of poetry. Beside her, a lion dog rests its chin on her knee. Neither speaks. Both are at peace. And outside, in the stillness of the palace gardens, a breeze stirs the bamboo. And the world, for just a moment, holds its breath. These small dogs, despite their size, left pawprints on the very heart of dynasties. They were the silent witnesses of royal whispers, the companions of those whose burdens were heavy, but who found, in fur and in closeness, a moment of quiet comfort. Herb ambient sound suggestion. Light bamboo chimes, distant flute music, the soft clicking of paws on stone floors, gentle wind passing through palace trees. Let us drift now, gently, to a place of fragrant gardens and soaring minarets. The air is sweet with the scent of roses and mint. Somewhere, in the distance, a call to prayer echoes softly. Not loud, but like a whisper that folds into the twilight. We are in the courts of the Ottoman Empire, where the hush of power is layered with silk and stone. Here, amid marble fountains and colored tiles, animals moved as quietly as secrets, offering comfort, companionship, and calm. Among the most cherished royal companions in the palaces of Istanbul were cats. Not fierce, nor trained, just present. Present in a way that felt divine. It is said that Sultan Abdul Hamid II allowed cats to roam freely through the Topkapi Palace. They curled up in windowsills, slept under the shade of jasmine vines, and padded silently across mosaic floors, where once grand viziers had stood. Cats were considered clean and spiritually significant in the Ottoman world. Even the Prophet Muhammad was said to have loved cats dearly. And so, sultans and scholars alike welcomed them as honored guests. Now picture this. A quiet morning in the palace courtyard. The sky is soft with dawn light. A servant carries a silver tray with warm milk and fresh bread. Behind him, a line of cats follows. Striped, black, golden, and white. Each with its own quiet dignity. They are not caged, not collared. They are respected, trusted to find their place. Some would rest in the shade of orange trees. Others would slip into libraries, curling beside scholars, who translated texts by candlelight. And then there were those who stayed in the harem, nestling in the laps of ladies who spent their lives behind carved screens. Those women found in these creatures a small kind of freedom. A listener, a warmth, a soul that wandered even when they could not. Later, as night fell, candles were placed on the backs of slow-moving tortoises, who would wander the gardens, illuminating paths in a ritual as quiet as moonlight. And the cats would follow, their eyes reflecting the flicker of flame, turning the night into a gentle moving dream. You may wonder, did the Sultan ever bend to pet them? Perhaps in a moment of solitude. Perhaps when no vizier watched, and the affairs of empire felt far away. Perhaps he reached out, and ran his fingers through soft fur. And the world, for a moment, was very small, and very still. These cats had no bloodline, no crowns. But they moved beside emperors, and carried a stillness the empire itself could not always hold. So let your breath match theirs. Slow, rhythmic, like paws on cool tile. We remain in peace, as the gardens of history bloom around us. Herb ambient sound suggestion. Distant call to prayer fading into silence, trickling fountains, the soft patting of paws across stone, candle flames flickering. And now, we gently turn the page once more, as time stretches out like an old velvet carpet beneath our feet. The wind carries us westward, over snowy hills and winding rivers, into a world of stone castles and smoke curling from thatched rooftops. We arrive in medieval Europe, where royalty ruled from towers and turrets, and companionship came in many forms, feathered, furred, and often noble in spirit. Here, the bond between humans and animals often took shape through hunting dogs. But not always for the hunt. There were dogs kept simply for their company. Gentle, loyal creatures who rested at the feet of queens, and followed kings from throne room to chapel. In the quiet hours before dawn, you could find a lady in waiting softly brushing the long ears of a spaniel, its coat clean and fragrant with herbs. The dog would blink slowly, comforted by the familiar routine, and lie back onto embroidered pillows beside the fire. In courts across England, France, and the Holy Roman Empire, small lapdogs, particularly the early ancestors of today's Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, were cherished for their warmth and grace. Their presence was believed to ward off illness, to calm nerves, and to ease the loneliness that often settled within the cold, echoing walls of a castle. Some noblewomen kept them tucked beneath their cloaks during long church ceremonies, while others had special cushions placed under their thrones, so the dogs could rest as royal decrees were made. But the bond was not only for the women. In the tapestries of the 14th century, you will sometimes find a king seated in state, and at his feet, not a sword, but a dog curled in perfect stillness. These dogs were trusted, not for battle, but for being, for listening, for staying close. And what of the great halls, the dining chambers lit with torches? There too, the dogs wandered freely, tail wagging softly, sniffing beneath long oak tables in hopes of a dropped bone, or settling beneath their masters' feet as minstrels played gentle tunes on the lute. Even in illness and death, these companions remained. There are records of royal wills from the 13th and 14th centuries that left specific instructions: golden collars to be made for a favorite hound, or food and shelter guaranteed for a beloved lapdog, long after the king or queen had passed. And so, while history remembers crowns and crusades, it forgets, sometimes, the soft fur brushing against velvet, the eyes that followed a monarch's every move, and the heartbeat that slept beside them when no one else did. Tonight, we remember. We remember that history isn't only carved in stone. It is whispered through devotion, and through the quiet footsteps of four-legged friends who asked for nothing, but gave everything. Herb ambient sound suggestion, crackling fireplace, soft lute melody, the faint sound of a dog's collar jingling as it shifts beside a stone hearth. And now, as our dreamlike journey gently drifts forward, we find ourselves beneath soft northern skies, wrapped in mist, and the quiet murmur of centuries past. Let us travel now to Scandinavia, in the days of early Viking chieftains and Norse queens, where icy fjords sliced through ancient mountains, and longhouses glowed from within, warm hearths burning through the cold, stories swirling in the smoke. You might not think of pets in this rugged land of raids and runes, but even here, amid the weight of shields and sagas, creatures were loved, and bonds of kinship extended to the animal world. Among the Norse, cats held a very special place, sacred to the goddess Freya. Cats were seen not only as useful companions, but as mystical beings. It was said that Freya's chariot was pulled by two great cats, strong, sleek, and wise. Because of her, many Viking women kept cats in their homes, not just to keep away rats and mice, but as symbols of femininity, protection, and gentle luck. Long-haired breeds with tufted ears, perhaps early ancestors of the Norwegian forest cat, roamed freely across wooden floors strewn with straw and furs. They were fed scraps from the fire, slept in the crooks of cloaks, and sometimes, it is whispered, they would rest beside the beds of their mistresses, keeping away spirits, and guarding dreams. There are tales, too, of ravens, kept by seers and chieftains, not as pets in the modern sense, but as cherished messengers of the divine. A raven's intelligence was respected. Some were trained to return home from distant places, to carry charms, and to listen. And in some sagas, you may read of wolves raised from pups, bonded to young warriors, their howls heard at night as part of the family. Of course, not every home had a cat, a raven, or a wolf, but in the quiet longhouses of Norway and Sweden, in those gentle hours between dusk and snowfall, you could often hear the contented purr of a feline, nestled in the lap of a weaver, or see its shadow dance across the firelit wall. As the old stories were told once again, history remembers the hammers and horns, but we remember the soft ones, too. Those that walked silently through Viking myths, tail curling like smoke, eyes gleaming in the half-light. Herb ambient sound suggestion, gentle crackle of a wood-burning hearth, wind moving across snowy hills, the soft purring of a cat curled up by firelight.